Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tesla's 2020 Annual Meeting of Stockholders. We're really excited that you could be here with us today. My name is Al Prescott. I'm Tesla's Vice President of Legal. There'll be two parts to today's meeting. First, the formal part of the meeting will get out of the way, which will cover the 7 items that stockholders have been asked to vote on. After the voting, I'll introduce Tesla's co-founder and CEO, Elon Musk, who'll give a presentation about the company update and year in review. And then following the conclusion of the stockholder meeting, we'll start our separate Battery Day event. At this time, I'd like to thank the members of the Tesla team and our board, especially those who were able to make it out here in person today, as well as to our representative from PricewaterhouseCoopers, Tesla's independent auditor, who's also here. But before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to Robin Denholm, the chairwoman of Tesla, who would like to say a few words remotely.
Thank you, Al. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 Tesla shareholder meeting. A special welcome to the many Tesla shareholders that have joined us today in person, as well as online from across the country and around the globe. I wanted to start today's proceedings by thanking you, our shareholders, for your tremendous support over the last year, and especially to those of you who have been with us through our journey over the past 10 years since the company's IPO in 2010. While we have stayed true to our mission of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy, in many ways, our company has evolved beyond recognition over the past decade, and that is a great thing. In fact, the pace of developments and the evolution of Tesla has further accelerated over the past 15 months since I last addressed you in June of 2019. You'll hear more about many of the specific achievements from Elon later in the agenda, but I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of our Tesla employees across the globe who have done a tremendous job of executing and staying focused on delivering for our customers and shareholders as the world has gone through one of the most challenging periods in our lifetimes. As a board, we have always taken a long-term view. We have made decisions and supported decisions made by the management team that may not have seemed obvious at the time, but are delivering and will continue to deliver breakthrough results. But it's also important to remember why we do this. As a company, we are focused on addressing one of the biggest environmental challenges of our generation: how to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. The last year in particular has seen a tremendous increase in momentum in the movement to sustainable energy from both shareholders and the general public. So in addition to developing amazing clean transportation and energy products, we are doing our part by contributing the right facts and information to this important issue. And we released an extended version of our impact report in April of 2020. In this year's version, we have covered in great detail many areas that are important to our shareholders and our customers alike, such as our environmental impact, greenhouse and other noxious gas elimination, our supply chain efforts, especially in cobalt, and our culture and people focus. We hope that by continuing to put this data out there, we will underscore to the world the importance and impact that we are having as a company. Lastly, continuous feedback and input from our shareholders is essential for us to do our jobs, and I would like to thank you for your support in this regard. Many of you have provided me and the team with ideas and insights that we as a board take into consideration as we evolve our governance and company practices. It's especially crucial to the board members as we pride ourselves in adaptability and the diversity of thought and experience that we collectively represent on the board. This brings me to my final 2 things today. As today is his last shareholder meeting, on behalf of the board, I would like to sincerely thank Steve Jurvetson for over a decade of service to Tesla, the board, and our shareholders. You will be missed. Finally, I would like to introduce to you our newest member of the board, Hiro Mizuno, who until recently led the largest pension fund in the world. He brings a wealth of experience to the board, but let me hand over to Hiro to say a few words. Hiro.
Thank you, Robin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tesla Annual Shareholders Meeting. It is my real pleasure to virtually meet you, Tesla shareholders, people who believe in Tesla's mission and its growth opportunities. I spent all my career in finance and asset management in Tokyo, New York, London, and Silicon Valley. Until recently, I was a chief investment officer of GPIF, $1.5 trillion Japanese public pension fund. And one of my priorities as an investment chief was to promote responsible investments, which aim to make financial returns while pursuing ESG agenda, such as environment and social issues. I believe in the market where ESG is becoming mainstream, purpose or mission-driven businesses will gain long-term investor support. This is why I was interested in Tesla, where our mission is to accelerate the world transition to sustainable energy. I'm very excited to join the Tesla team on that journey and hope to assist Tesla deliver what investors expect by further enhancing its environmental and social impact. Once again, Tesla shareholders, thanks for your support. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person next year. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin and Hiro. I will now call the meeting to order. Please refer to the meeting agenda that has been provided to you and posted also to our virtual meeting site. The time is now 1:49 p.m. Pacific time, and I declare that the polls are now open. We've already received voting proxies from stockholders over the past few weeks, meaning that almost all of the votes that will be counted were already submitted before the meeting. However, if you wish to vote now or to change your prior vote, you may do so through the virtual meeting site. For those that are here in person today, ballots and ballot boxes were available to you at check-in. Tesla's board of directors has appointed Computershare Trust Company to serve as inspector of elections for the meeting. Computershare has taken and signed an oath as inspector of election and has certified that starting on August 13th, 2020, the proxy material or a notice of internet availability of the proxy material were mailed or provided to all Tesla stockholders of record as of July 31, 2020. We have a majority of the outstanding shares represented at the meeting. So I declare that there is now a quorum present and that we may proceed with the meeting. The items on the agenda are as follows. The election of 3 Class 1 directors, Elon Musk, Robin Denholm, and Hiromichi Mizuno, to each serve for a term of 3 years. 2, to approve Tesla's executive compensation on an advisory basis. And 3, to ratify the appointment of PricewaterhouseCoopers, LLP, as Tesla's independent registered public accounting firm for the fiscal year of 2020. Tesla's board has recommended that our stockholders vote for each of the director nominees and for each of those proposals. In addition, we have also received 4 stockholder proposals, as described in the proxy statement. I would like to remind our stockholders that Tesla's board has prepared a statement in opposition to each of these proposals, which appear in the proxy. The first stockholder proposal is an advisory vote regarding paid advertising. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal. This stockholder proposal comes to us from James Danforth. However, Mr. Danforth has notified us that neither he nor his representative will be presenting the proposal at the meeting today, so we will continue. The second stockholder proposal is an advisory vote regarding simple majority voting in our governing documents. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal. The proposal comes from James McRitchie, who is on the line to present the proposal today. Mr. McRitchie, I would like to invite you now to present. You'll have 3 minutes.
I'd like to thank the board for holding such an innovative hybrid meeting during these difficult times. Proposal number 5 basically asks for a majority voting standard to amend bylaws. I first introduced a proposal on this subject at the 2014 TSLA meeting. Supermajority provisions are generally used to entrench incumbent directors and managers. Academic research finds that reducing such devices is associated with higher returns. The board's opposition statement argues they tried to adopt a majority standard last year, but shareholders rejected it. However, 99.6% of shares voted for the proposal. Only 0.4% voted against it. The problem was that a little more than 35% of shares went unvoted. The vast majority of retail shareholders often don't bother to vote. Since only 65% of shares were voted, we didn't achieve the 66.67% necessary to overturn the current supermajority bylaw. It appears the proposal failed primarily for 3 reasons. 1, the board put forth less than robust arguments in favor. 2, they added confusion with another proposal to reclassify the board not into a single class, that's the norm, but into 2 classes, elected in alternating years. 3rd, the board also failed to make a substantial effort to solicit votes in favor. Also, please consider this proposal in context with other poor corporate governance provisions at TSLA. First, shareholders can only remove directors for cause. What that basically means is the director has to be caught in criminal activity for shareholders to remove them. Second, because the board is divided into 3 classes, shareholders can only hold individual directors accountable every 3 years. And third, shareholders cannot call special meetings, nor can act by written consent. I hope you will agree. Corporations should not be democratic free zones. Vote for proposal number 5 so that 33% of shares cannot overrule the wishes of 67%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McRitchie. We'll now move on to our 3rd stockholder proposal, which is an advisory vote regarding reporting on employee arbitrations. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal. This proposal comes from NIA Impact Capital, whose representative, Kelly Hall, is on the line to present the proposal today. Ms. Hall, I'd like to invite you to go ahead and present. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Dr. Kristen Hull, and I'm the founder and CEO of NIA Impact Capital. I formally move proposal 6. This resolution requests that TSLA's Board of Directors oversee the preparation of a report on the impact of the use of mandatory arbitration on TSLA's employees and on its workplace culture. The report will evaluate the association of TSLA's current use of arbitration with the prevalence of both harassment and discrimination in its workplace, and on employees' ability to seek redress should harassment or discrimination occur. This proposal speaks to the widespread experience of discrimination in the workplace by Black, Latinx, and female employees, despite this discrimination being unlawful under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. TSLA has faced a number of serious allegations of racism and sexism at its Buffalo and Fremont plants. Companies that allow bias, discrimination, and harassment in their workplaces are at risk for unnecessary legal, brand, financial, and human capital issues. Support for this resolution is warranted for the following 5 reasons. 1. Research shows that companies benefit from diverse and inclusive workplaces. 2. Corporate policies that allow harassment and discrimination risk investors' capital. 3. The use of arbitration exposes investors to to an unknown level of risk. 4, broad concerns exist with respect to fair treatment in Tesla workplace, and Tesla employees have alleged harassment and discrimination on the basis of both race and gender. Tesla, a company investors love for its innovation, leadership, and wise moat, is increasingly lagging behind its peers in its disclosure related to workplace diversity, equity, and inclusion. Unlike the forward-thinking and innovation in its extraordinary product line, Tesla has not shown proactive leadership in building a positive company culture or in addressing concerns about its workplace practices. In these material issues, Tesla lags behind its technology and automotive competitors. The use of arbitration limits employees' remedies for wrongdoing, precludes employees from suing in court, and often keeps underlying facts, misconduct, or case outcomes secret, therefore preventing employees from learning about and acting on shared concerns. Simply stated, arbitration allows bad corporate behavior, like bias, harassment, and discrimination to continue, hidden from employees and investors. To maintain Tesla's wide moat, it is essential that the board seriously assess the implications of the use of arbitration and that Tesla begin to take seriously the need to ensure a fair, equitable, positive, and inclusive workplace. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Our fourth and final proposal is an advisory vote regarding reporting on human rights. Our board has recommended that stockholders vote against this proposal. This proposal comes to us from the Sisters of Good Shepherd, New York Province, whose representative, Terrence Collingsworth, is on the line to present today. Mr. Collingsworth, I would like to invite you to speak now. You have 3 minutes for your proposal.
Thank you. I'm Terry Collingsworth, Executive Director of the International Rights Advocates. I'm here representing the Sisters of Good Shepherd, New York Province, to present Item 7 on human rights disclosure, which calls upon Tesla to issue a report to describe board oversight of human rights and its human rights due diligence process, including systems to provide meaningful remedies when human rights impacts occur. Tesla faces serious human rights issues, and failure to establish a culture of respect for human rights will expose Tesla to new liability issues and significant reputational injury, all of which will have a material impact on the company and its shareholders. The need to set a new course for human rights compliance at Tesla is glaring. Here are 5 examples of human rights violations occurring now in Tesla's operations. Racism, sexual harassment, and disregard for human safety and dignity harm workers at the Gigafactory 2 in Buffalo, New York every single day, and those workers urge you to remember their experiences in your vote. Tesla is experiencing serious labor relations issues at its production facilities and is actively discouraging union organizing. Workers are being exposed to COVID-19 and then are facing retaliation when they ask for greater protections. There are numerous worker health and safety violations as well as wage and hour issues. And finally, there are serious, even deadly human rights violations occurring in Tesla's global supply chains. On this last issue, my organization brought the pending suit against Tesla for using cobalt mined in the Democratic Republic of Congo by young children. I personally met young boys who lost limbs or were paralyzed in cobalt tunnel collapses. Tesla sources cobalt from these very mines, and its claim to have, quote, zero tolerance for child labor in its supplier code of conduct is simply not true. Tesla is not only tolerating child labor in its cobalt supply chain, it is tolerating the death and maiming of young child miners. This demonstrates why the company must circle back and begin a process to report on its treatment of human rights issues as requested in this proposal. I think consumers will have zero tolerance for a company that is exposed as being indifferent to killing and maiming child minors. We are hopeful that Tesla's innovative spirit can be brought to bear on making human rights a priority at the company. For example, if Elon Musk cared about implementing a zero-tolerance child labor policy, instead of having a useless paper policy, Tesla could employ satellites or drones at every mine it sources from to actually monitor child labor. I encourage all Tesla shareholders to vote for Item 7, Human Rights Disclosure. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Collinsworth. At this time, I'd like to thank our stockholders for all of their active participation in today's meeting and for those who just presented on the line. I'd also like to read some of the comments that have been submitted by you over the course of the meeting. The first comment comes from Michael Overbaugh. I take great pride in the fact that we haven't had to stoop to the level of what advertising represents to get where we are today. I'd hate to give in to that kind of temptation now when we're so close to becoming a household name that's based solely on our merit alone. But if assets do end up having to be set aside for marketing, I'd like to suggest that rather than shoving ads down the customers' throats, we establish some sort of hardcore nationwide campaign and event with the goal of getting as many people as possible behind the wheel of a Tesla for an introduction drive. It's well known how far just doing that alone goes to converting people into fans. A line I recently ran across says, "You can talk all about the specs as much as you want, but when it comes to buying a car, what ultimately puts butts in seats is the feeling that the vehicle gives you." By demonstrating that Tesla clearly has both the specs and the feeling, what more needs saying? Our second comment comes from the United Steelworkers on behalf of the Clean Air Now Coalition of Western New York by Sabrina Liu. Proposal, and it reads as follows. Proposals 6 and 7, up for vote this year, are the results of widespread concern about mistreatment of Tesla workers at U.S. factories and across the supply chain. It is clear that Tesla is not interested in addressing the harm they have caused to their workers, as their board is advising shareholders to vote against the proposal. We're urging all shareholders to vote in favor of Proposals 6 and 7. And on behalf of our workers at the United Steelworkers here in Western New York, and for Tesla employees across the country and across the global supply chain, while this doesn't repair the harm that's already been caused to countless employees, nor repair harm to children and communities forced into slave labor in the DRC, they represent steps towards a more just workplace at Tesla. This concludes all of the comments. Thank you all for your participation in the comments. We'll now have a final opportunity for any of you to submit proxies in order for them to be counted. So I'll pause and wait for a moment for you to do that. Okay, I declare that the polls are now closed. So based on the proxies that we have previously received, I'd like to announce on a preliminary basis that our stockholders have approved the recommendations of Tesla's board on all agenda items, other than the stockholder proposal for an advisory vote regarding simple majority voting in our governing documents. After the final tabulation is completed, we'll formally announce the results of the voting by filing a Form 8K with the SEC within 4 business days of today. This now concludes the official business of Tesla's 2020 Annual Stockholders Meeting, which is now adjourned. Next, we will have a company update and a year in review presented by Elon, and then we will start our Battery Day event. During the course of those following sessions, we may discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. Such statements are predictions based on our current expectations. Actual events or results could materially differ due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those disclosed in our most recent 10-Q file with the SEC. These forward-looking statements represent our views as of today. They shouldn't be relied on after today, and we disclaim any obligation to update them after today as well. We will now continue with the company update and year in review, and it's my pleasure to introduce Tesla co-founder and CEO, Mr. Elon Musk.
Hey everyone. Well, I mean, this is definitely a new approach. We got the Tesla drive-in movie theater, basically. It's good to see everyone. It's a little hard to read the room with everyone being in cars, but it's it's the only way we could do it. So hopefully it's cool, and hopefully you can hear me. Can you guys hear me? Okay. All right, great. All right, well, thanks for coming. I think it's been an incredible year, and I'd like to thank you for your support through tough times, good times. It's been great. Really appreciate everyone who's put their hard-earned money into Tesla, and I think it's worked out pretty well. This has been a good year, and I think there's many good years to come. So I'll go through the sort of the shareholder presentation, I think, fairly quickly, because the sort of real main event here is Battery Day. So, really, I'm just going through a recap of what's happened over the past year or so. I think starting from in terms of our ability to create a factory, huge kudos to the Tesla Shanghai team for being able to go from literally a dirt pile to volume production in 15 months. It's like, damn. Yeah. So, and I think something that's really quite noteworthy here is Tesla is the only foreign manufacturer to have a 100% owned factory in China. So this is often not well understood or not appreciated, but to have the only 100% owned foreign factory in China is a really big deal, and it's paying huge dividends here. So we really wouldn't have the results that we have had this year without the great efforts of the Tesla China team. So I'm super appreciative of that. And we'll see the Shanghai factory continue to scale quite a bit from where it is right now. I think we really could expect that to be, over time, a factory that produces over 1 million vehicles a year. Yeah, it's cool. So let's see. So we also reached in the past year volume production of the Model Y, and this was the smoothest launch that we've ever had. So I think we're definitely getting better at new vehicle launches and building factories and scaling production. As you've heard me say before, it's the hardest thing is scaling production, especially of a new technology. It's insanely difficult. Making a prototype is relatively easy, and if I think like what is the real achievement of Tesla in sort of car company terms, it's like it wasn't making sort of exciting prototypes. It was that Tesla was really the first company in about a century in the U.S., the first U.S. company in the U.S. to reach volume production and be sustainably profitable. Like the crazy thing is this has really not happened in 100 years. That's the actual super hard part. And we now have 4 vehicles in volume production, S3 XY. So also the toughest joke I think maybe ever. It was a very difficult joke to make. So we also introduced the lowest cost solar in the U.S. It's only $1.49 a watt, and we really just simplified the whole value chain. So reduced sales and advertising, got rid of a bunch of unnecessary costs and really are just relying upon the fact that it's just the lowest cost, most efficient solar in the U.S., providing both retrofit and the solar glass roof, which I think is a really great product, a hard product to make work, but it will be a major product line in the future. And we also got 4 consecutive quarters of GAAP profitability, which was very difficult. Yeah. So, and certainly a testament to the hard work of people at Tesla. I mean, to do this in extremely difficult times against a wide range of adverse circumstances was insanely hard, but we got it done. So, and I think the future is looking like I think very promising from sort of an annual profitability standpoint. So, in order to achieve, in order to sort of do well financially, you really need economies of scale, and you need ideally the best technology. And I think we've had the best technology for a while, but now we are also achieving economies of scale. So, and we're also rapidly improving autonomy, which is a massive value add to each car. So, I think the value of Tesla is going to be like total, just on the vehicle side, total vehicles produced times the value of autonomy. That's a way to think about the future value of Tesla. We also have consistent free cash flow generation. This is really important for growth. And a key element here is tightening up the time from when a car is ordered to when it is built and delivered. So for a company that's growing rapidly, it's extremely important to tighten the supply chain and to have from when parts arrive, put it into a car very quickly and deliver the car very quickly to the customer. And if you can do that inside the sort of your kind of payables timeline, then the faster you grow, the more cash you have. Or conversely, if you're unable to do it within your payables timeline, the faster you grow, the less money you will have, which is obviously bad. It's for a capital-intensive situation. So just tightening up and having the parts move very quickly to the factory, put it in a car, get it to a customer, makes a massive difference to cash flow generation. And, I mean, that's why it's extremely important to have a factory in each continent. Because if you don't at least have a factory in the continent, it is impossible to achieve this. So having a factory in China that's able to serve China and then, soon many other countries in the region will be key to us tightening that total sort of chain of cash flow and getting it, essentially the faster we grow, the more cash. This is really important. That's also why it's important to have Giga Berlin complete, because then we'll have a factory in China, a factory in the U.S., and soon a second factory in the U.S. in Austin, and a factory in Europe. And I mean, even if for Giga Texas in Austin, even if we had exactly the same costs as in California, it would still be advantageous to do it there because it's roughly 2/3 of the way across the U.S. So in terms of delivering cars to the central U.S. and to the East Coast, it's just faster, costs less, and it fundamentally improves our economics. So I think this is also maybe something that's not fully appreciated of just how important it is to have a factory at least on the continent or reasonably close to where the end customers is, so you can tighten that whole chain. Industry performance. We've while the rest of industry has gone down, Tesla has gone up. And I think this speaks to thanks. And so I'd like to thank all the customers for taking a chance on Tesla and buying our product, and really hope you're enjoying it. This is really, our sales, as Al was saying, really grow by word of mouth. So this is really, I think, a very pure, it's very pure in the sense that it's like, it's growing on the basis of existing owners recommending it to new customers. This is really, I think, a good way to grow. And then in 2019 we had 50% growth, and I think we'll do really pretty well in 2020. probably somewhere between 30 to 40% growth, despite a lot of very difficult circumstances. I mean, there's so many, pandemic, wildfires. It's like a whole bunch of difficult production issues. But thanks to the hard work of the Tesla team and a lot of innovative approaches to overcoming issues, we're able to still see significant growth in one of the most difficult, in fact, I'd say probably the most difficult year of Tesla's existence. So, and we also published our extended impact report. At Tesla, we try very hard to do the right thing. If the right thing does not happen, it's just because we maybe made a mistake or weren't aware of it. But we always try to do the right thing as to the best of our ability. And then we published the extended impact report to show, just a sort of a self-examination of, okay, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What can we do better in the future? We're definitely trying to accomplish the most good. And so, if we occasionally make a mistake, we work quickly to fix it and do the right thing. So, it's worth looking at like the average life cycle emissions in the U.S. And just how much better a Tesla is or an electric car than any other than any kind of gasoline car. And what we'll talk about in the battery day is also just how much the grids around the world and actually, especially in the U.S., are greening. It's actually much faster than I think people realize. The U.S. is moving towards sustainable energy. And so as we move more and more to sustainable energy, then effectively you end up building the solar factories and the car factories themselves with solar. Over time you do, or with sustainable energy. Over time you'll even mine with sustainable energy, and eventually it will get to an effective emissions of zero. So that's where things will end up. Yeah. So we also have safety at the core of our design. The Tesla cars are the safest cars ever designed. We have the lowest probability of injury of any cars ever tested by the U.S. government, and that's just passive safety. When you add active safety into that, it's even better. It's really, if safety is important to you, which obviously it is, the safest car you could drive is a Tesla. So, I think some people aren't aware of this, but it's really, safety is paramount. It is actually the number one design objective when we build a Tesla is safety. Our factories are also becoming safer, and if you look at the sort of accidents per total vehicle made, it's dramatically better than in the past, and it's already better than industry average, and we're confident we can get it to the best in the auto industry. Autopilot functionality continues to improve, and you can see it in the safety report that we publish every quarter. It's just getting better and better. The U.S. average for collisions is roughly 2.1 per million miles, and with autopilot engaged, it's 0.3. I mean, this is a profound difference, really massive, and this will get even better. So we're confident that over time we can get the probability of an accident, especially the probability of injury, to 10 times better than the industry average, like an order of magnitude better. So that's just a lot of lives saved and a lot of injuries avoided. So that's a huge priority for us. On the autopilot front, I think it's kind of hard for people to judge the progress of autopilot. Like I'm driving. I as a matter of course, I've always done this. I drive the bleeding edge alpha build of autopilot, and so I sort of have insight into what is going on. Previously, about a couple of years ago, we were kind of stuck in a local maximum. So we were improving, but like the improvements kind of started tailing off and just not getting where they needed to be. I call this sort of getting trapped in a local maximum. And so we had to do a fundamental rewrite of the entire autopilot software stack, and all of the labeling software as well. So we're now labeling in 3D video. So this is hugely different from the previously where we were labeling essentially a bunch of single images from the 8 cameras, and they would be labeled at different times by different people. And some of the labels, you literally can't tell what it is you're labeling. So it basically made it sort of in some cases impossible to label, and the labels had a lot of errors. Now, with our new labeling tools, we label it in video. So we actually label entire video segments, and the system, so you get basically a surround video thing to label, and with the surround video and with time. So it's now taking all cameras simultaneously, and looking at how the images change over time and labeling that. And then the sophistication of the neural nets in the car and the overall logic in the car has improved dramatically. I think we'll hopefully release a private beta of Autopilot, or the full self-driving version of Autopilot, in, I think, a month or so. And then people will really understand just the magnitude of the change. It's profound. So, yeah. Anyway, so you'll see it's just like a hell of a step change. But because we had to rewrite everything, labeling software, the entire code base, it took us quite a while. And the sort of new sort of, I call it like 4D in the sense that it's 3 dimensions plus time. It's just taken us a while to rewrite everything. And so, you'll see what it's like. It's amazing. Yeah, it's just clearly going to work. Tesla core competencies, we've got engineering, obviously. But also manufacturing. I think manufacturing is underappreciated in general. And the difficulty of designing the machine that makes the machine is vastly harder than the machine itself. So, the designing, like making a Model 3 or Model Y or Cybertruck prototype is really quite trivial compared to designing the factory that makes it. Especially if it's new technology and you want to use new manufacturing methods, it's just at least 10 to 100 times harder to do the factory than the prototype. And that's why you see a lot of companies out there or startups, they'll bring out a prototype, but they just can't get it over the hump for manufacturing, because manufacturing of new technology especially is the hardest thing by far. Like basically the prototype is at best 10% of the difficulty and probably closer to 1%. And then software. Tesla is both a hardware and a software company. So a huge percentage of our engineers are actually software engineers. And you can think of our car as kind of like a laptop on wheels. And so software is incredibly important. And so not just in the car, but also in the factory. So the factory software is extremely important. Just software in general. These are fundamental. These are the 3 critical areas that are needed to make for an awesome company. So, yeah. So we have now we'll soon have 3 new factories, incremental, on. Well, we have one already on 3 different continents. Shanghai, we're expanding to Shanghai with the second phase. Berlin is making rapid progress, and Texas is making even faster progress. So, yeah. With each factory, what we're trying to do is also improve the manufacturing technology. So, it's in some cases like the Model Y made in Berlin might look the same, but it actually is made in a much more efficient way. And yeah, we'll talk about that later in the battery presentation. Yeah, launched Megapack. It's a 3 megawatt hours all-in-one energy storage solution. So it's been great overall. Yeah. All right, and I think that's basically it. Right? All right, thank you. All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming, and we'll be back in a little bit to go through the battery stuff. And there's a little bit more, in addition to the battery stuff, we got a little few extras as well. So I think you'll really like what we have to say on batteries. the battery stuff we're going to talk about is truly revolutionary and essential to Tesla's goal. The fundamental good of Tesla. It's like if you look back in history and say what good did Tesla do? The good will be to by how many years did we accelerate sustainable energy? That's like the true metric of success. It matters if sustainable energy happens faster or slower, and so that's really like how I think about Tesla and how we should sort of assess our progress. By how many years did we accelerate sustainable energy? And what we're going to talk about with batteries and a few other things will really explain how we're going to make a step change improvement in the acceleration of sustainable energy. Thank you.